Up Taiwan. I'm Yvonne with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. U.S. President Donald Trump says the United States could take control of Gaza, possibly with the help of American troops. He made a comment in a meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Washington, D.C. Rosie Greninger has the story.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it.
Extraordinary comments from US President Donald Trump, side by side with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Washington, D.C. Netanyahu is in the US for bilateral talks, despite a warrant for his arrest from the International Criminal Court over war crimes in Gaza.
This is a testament to your friendship and support for the Jewish state and the Jewish people. I've said this before, I'll say it again. You are the greatest friend Israel has ever had in the White House.
During the leaders' pivotal talks, Trump walked back from the former administration's commitment to supporting a two-state solution in Gaza. The US leader instead proposing the permanent resettling of millions of displaced Palestinians elsewhere, calling the enclave a demolition site after nearly 16 months of war between Israel and Hamas.
I mean, there's hardly a building standing, and the ones that are going to collapse. You can't live in Gaza right now, and I think we need another location.
Trump saying the US would redevelop the war-torn region, with neighbouring countries taking in displaced Palestinians. That's despite Arab nations, including the US's regional allies Jordan and Egypt, already vehemently opposed to any forced relocation of Palestinians.
Most certainly there's no plan behind this. And if there is, it's not a plan that has any connection to reality in today's Middle East, and it's certainly not in consultation with the Palestinians or neighboring countries like Egypt and Jordan.
While Trump's remarks were immediately rejected by Saudi Arabia and Palestinian leaders.
Our homeland is our homeland. If part of it is destroyed, the Gaza Strip, the Palestinian people selected the choice to return to it. I think that we should be respecting the selections and the wishes of the Palestinian people.
It comes at a crucial time during the ceasefire arrangement between Israel and Hamas. Poised to soon enter its second phase, tens of Israeli hostages held by Hamas are expected to be released in return for hundreds of Palestinians detained in Israel. With Netanyahu in the US, protesters gathered in Tel Aviv, urging Trump to help secure the release of all the remaining hostages.
We call on President Trump to pressure Netanyahu to avoid thwarting the deal, avoid spoiling the deal that already started.
Israel is sending a delegation to Qatar to discuss the continued truce, as Netanyahu prepares to meet with members of the US military and Congress. But with Trump's new proposal for the future of Gaza drawing condemnation, the prospect of finding lasting peace is again uncertain. Dolphine Chen and Rosie Greninger for TaiwanPlus.
Trump says he's not worried about Chinese tariffs on U.S. goods.
Mr. President, what's your reaction to China's retaliatory tariffs?
It's fine. It's fine. We're going to do very well against China and against everybody else.
Any update you don't want to would speak to President Xi?
No, we'll speak to him at the appropriate time. I'm in no rush. I'm in no rush.
China announced new economic measures against the U.S. after Trump's 10% tariff on all Chinese goods took effect this week. China's measures include tariffs of up to 15% on certain U.S. energy imports, export controls on imported minerals, and investigations into U.S. companies such as Google. A White House spokesperson said a call between Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping is still being arranged. And for more on the potential impact of a new trade war between the U.S. and China, our reporter Chris Gorin spoke with Gary Nung of financial firm Natixis.
If the tariffs between the United States and China remain in place, what will be the impact on the two countries and on the global economy as a whole?
Well, definitely it is challenging to see two of the biggest economies in the world end up in a trade war. So from the US side, the 10% tariff on China can actually make it harder for the Fed to cut interest rate because of the potential inflationary pressure to the US economy. But of course, from the China retaliation side, it's really about the export control of China in some of the critical materials, which can be important for some of the sectors like military, semiconductors, electronics, and etc. In a single word, I think inflation is the ultimate outcome.
Well, what about Taiwan? I mean, China's export controls are mostly on minerals that are used in high-tech manufacturing, including chips. And of course, Taiwan makes more than 90% of the world's most advanced chips, many of which go to American companies. So could China use trade restrictions against Taiwan as a kind of proxy for its trade war with the United States?
Yes, I think this is definitely a very valid concern. And of course, if we look at the supply chain structure, we do see that Taiwan is quite good in manufacturing a certain part within the chain. So definitely, if we do see US-China trade tension continue to escalate, it's possible that there could be certain measures that would be applied to Taiwan, which may indirectly hurt the US. Then it is really about whether the world can diversify its supply of this sort of materials from other sources. And we do see that certain from Australia, from US and Malaysia, or increasingly there's also talk about Ukraine on basically how to supply this sort of material to the US and other countries. But we do need to see greater development towards that sense, because it's not that easy to replace someone who produced 80% of the production annually. It seems to me that it is a trend that is unavoidable, and Taiwan simply just needs to cope with that.
The recent US tariff threats against Mexico and Canada ended up being resolved fairly quickly, at least for now. Do you expect the same thing to happen with China?
Compared to the case of Canada and Mexico, the issues are definitely more complex between the US and China. But for the case of China, beyond the drug problem that basically Trump has emphasized, there are also other issues about this massive trade surplus, the tech competition, and where all the strategic interests of the US over the world. So even though there may be a temporary deal on a certain issue, it's possible that some issues may arise at a certain point in the future.
That was Gary Ng from the financial firm Natixis. Taiwan has reportedly asked to buy 6 surveilling aircraft from the United States. Local media say the military wants to buy Hawkeye early warning planes to replace the 2 older models it has now. Sources say the Hawkeyes would help counter the threat posed by Chinese fighter jets, which are flying more missions around Taiwan. The Defense Ministry hasn't commented on the reports. The military is changing rules about re-enlisting troops who've chosen to leave the armed forces. But as John Ventry reports, a recent budget freeze could hamstring these efforts to boost flagging recruitment.
Taiwan's military is short-staffed, and the country's rapidly aging population is only partly to blame. Last year, 1,500 service people accepted offers of payment in exchange for early discharge, part of a policy meant to address pension system sustainability, adapt to reforms, and manage personnel composition. These efforts have seen rates of early retirements quadruple in 4 years, and there are fewer young recruits willing and able to fill the gaps. Now the Defense Ministry wants seasoned soldiers back. It's proposing scrapping a rule that made it hard to re-enlist soldiers who'd returned to civilian life. The idea is that anyone itching to get back into uniform can do so after a year.
在品德不放宽、体位不放宽、不影响国军的战力状况下，让因为个人选择离开部队的人可以在回营服务，对国家战力提升有所帮助。
But attracting veterans back will take money, both for pay and better conditions. And money is in short supply. Lawmakers have frozen billions of US dollars in military spending and cut equipment budgets by 3%. Defense analysts say the government will find a way forward, but that it needs to address better salaries for the plan to succeed.
的确，跟其他国家比较起来，台湾的 GDP 算是不错的，可是军人的待遇是比较偏低的。 所以如果可以提高他们的薪水的话，对于吸引这些人留在军中，或者是新的人加入军队是有帮助的。
While many militaries face recruiting challenges, Taiwan's struggle is especially critical given the direct threat from China and its low enlistment rates. Calculations put last year's troop numbers at just 78% of where they should be, and far below the 85% capacity needed for battlefield effectiveness. With more soldiers continuing to retire early, this gap could become a problem for Taiwan's national security. Patrick Chen and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Weekly cases of people seeking treatment for flu in Taiwan hit a 10-year high in late January, with over 162,000 people visiting doctors. 132 deaths and more than 650 confirmed severe cases have been reported by Taiwan's Centers for Disease Control this flu season. The CDC says most of the severe cases are linked to the H1N1 strain, and many of them were unvaccinated. It's urging high-risk individuals to get vaccinated. The CDC expects the outbreak to subside in the next week or two. At least 11 people have been killed in a mass shooting at an adult education center in Sweden.
Vi har idag sett ett brutalt dödligt våld mot helt oskyldiga människor. Det här är den värsta massskjutningen i svensk historia. Ännu saknas väldigt många svar. Och jag kan inte ge de svaren heller.
The suspected shooter is among the dead, and police believe he acted alone. Authorities could not provide details about his identity or motive. School shootings in Sweden are rare, but the country has seen an increase in gun violence in recent years, with it recording one of the highest homicide rates in the EU. Indonesia has released another foreigner from death row. French national Serge Aloui was sentenced to death in Indonesia in 2007 for working at an ecstasy factory. Aloui has maintained his innocence. Indonesia handed him over to French authorities on humanitarian grounds as he has cancer. His case follows the repatriation in December of a Filipino mother and domestic helper and 5 members of an Australian drug ring. A feathered professor has joined the teaching team at a Taiwanese university. And by demonstrating the diverse therapy options available to healthcare professionals, Semway the chicken is helping students explore new possibilities. Rhys Ayers reports.
You've heard of therapy dogs. Now meet Shimei, the therapy hen, resident poultry professor of the nursing department at Tzu University in Taiwan's eastern city of Hualien. A quick hit with the class, this friendly fowl has been employed to teach students about alternative therapies. And through playing with Shimei, these future healthcare professionals experienced firsthand the potential therapeutic effects of interacting with animals.
摸下来的时候，就是心里会有比较平顺的感觉啦，劳累的心情会有慢慢的消退，我觉得还算有用。
因为是第一次，所以我就是很想要碰触它。对，因为它毛茸茸的，然后又其实很舒服。
While not quite as typical a choice as dogs or cats, hens are used as therapy animals, reducing stress and providing company for people with mental health issues, mobility difficulties, or who live alone. And for the university, it's a chance to demonstrate to their students the range of tools available to them as healthcare providers.
让学生体验不同的多元的辅助疗法啦，对，然后因为疗愈鸡，他们可能在鸡，他们平常也比较少接触得到。
With Taiwan set to become a super-aged society this year and facing a constant shortage of healthcare workers, the country's need for creative solutions is coming home to roost. And while the idea of emotional support hens may ruffle a few feathers, these nursing students are experiencing that their benefits are by no means paltry. Hank Xu and Rhys Ayers for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. Finally, check out this contemporary African artwork on display in Morocco. I'm Yvonne Yang. Take care, and I'll see you next time.